بسم الله الرحمن الرحيم نحمد ونصلي على رسول الكريم السلام عليكم ورحمة الله وبركاته. Alhamdulillah, we praise Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, ask him send peace and blessing our Prophet Sayyidina Muhammad sallallahu alayhi wasallam. Today we start the chapter or section of a chapter, Anwa' Azaab al-Qabr, the types of the torments of the grave. There's a reason why our Prophet sallallahu alayhi wasallam told us that, because that's the reality that is coming. That's a reality that's coming for us. And in this time, people, they say, don't talk about Jahannam, don't talk about the Quran. In every juz of the Quran, every part of the Quran, there's Jannah and Jahannam. There's torment and there's bounties. So it's the way we look at it. These are warnings of pitfalls, mistakes that if you don't do the right thing, these are the things Allah protect us and save us, can happen to us. Therefore, we need to, as we know about the rahmah of Allah, the mercy of Allah, as we need to know about the pleasure of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, the reward of Allah, we also need to know the different types of azab. And Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam did not speak in vain. He did not speak just uselessly. Actually, everything that he said was a revelation, or Allah inspired him to say what he said. So these things are needed for us. It's not, we can't put this part because people can't handle it, or people can't, they don't want to hear it, they want to hear some encouraging speech. No, encouraging, targheeb is there, that's the default. But we also need to hear this. If we don't know, then these are the warnings for us. So make sure that we are particular, that those pitfalls. So the two things we're always trying to do, that's one of the Imams of the past, Shaykh Abdul Qadir Jilani Rahimahullah, said, the mu'min is in three situations. Either there's an amr to be obeyed, a order to be obeyed, or a nahy, or something that is forbidden to refrain from, or lastly, there is some matter of qadr. Allah has brought some situation, not necessarily a good to do or a bad to avoid, but just you take it. It's out of beyond your control. Maybe you could say make sabr, but it's all a person can do is just go through it. There's nothing that he can do about it or change it in any way, because these are the only three states that come on a mu'min. So the first type of punishment that's mentioned, specific punishment, read generally about general punishments, how it's established from the Quran, established from the hadith and so forth, different types of conversations that happen in the grave. Now we're talking about the azab. This is the condition. The book is called Ahwaalul Quboor. For those brothers who are not here before, Ahwaalul Quboor, the Ahwal Ahli al-Nushur by Imam Ibn Rajab Al-Hanbali, Rahimahulla, written compiled approximately about 650 years ago. It's a compilation of ayat and a hadith related to the condition of the grave, good and bad, reward and punishment, and all the different things that will occur in the grave. So we took the grave speaking to the person, the amal of the person, he's conversing with his own amal, the good souls, they meet each other and how they speak to each other. There's a bab chapter on that. So there's all these things that go on. Now it's specifically coming about, this chapter or section is about the types of punishment, Anwa' Azaab al-Qabr. So the first one is the hitting by a sledgehammer or a hammer from iron or something similar. Like there's similar meaning hadith. The first narration, now many of these narrations are weak, in a sense the chain of narration are weak, and there's some from Bukhari and Muslim and so forth. But if you put it all together, the meanings, the ulama said that Imam Ibn Rajab casts a bit of a wider net, and so he doesn't necessarily only rely on absolutely authentic narrations or absolute sahih hadith. He casts a little bit wider net, that even if you to take slightly weaker narrations, then we know exactly the detail. That it stops us from bringing things that are outside that don't have any basis. So he casts the net a little bit wider, that even in this book he's covered some of the narrations, or many of the narrations that are considered weak, but they're supported, they back each other, corroborate each other. So you don't have to worry too much about it. But if you hear things that are not in this book, or hear other unusual, people make up their own stories, ghost stories and so forth, better be careful with that, and check if you hear what's outside of this book, better be careful with it, and maybe check with the ulama, make sure that's legitimate or not. So in this narration, there's a narration that he narrated from, gives a chain of narration, and said, Abu Umam al-Bahili radiallahu anhu, they said that we came to Rasulullah sallallahu alayhi wasallam in Baqi al-Gharqad, in Baqi. Baqi al-Gharqad is the actual name. In the subcontinent, we call it Jannatul Baqi. In our part of the world, that's become the generally that's how people refer to it. He stood at two graves and he said, did you bury so and so here? Did you bury so and so, this lady here? Or so and so here? We said yes. he said, this person has been made قد أُقِدَ فلان الآن يضرب. So so and so has been made to sit up, and now he's being beaten. And I swear, the Prophet ﷺ said, I swear by the one who's in whose hand is my soul, that if he hit such a way, like such a fire, such ferocity that he's hit with, that there's flames that comes from the hit of the hammer, flames fly off the grave, and he screams such a scream that all the creation can hear it except for insan, thaqalain, jinn wal ins. Insan, jinnat cannot hear it. And if it wasn't for, like, your hearts will be in shock, or like you say, have a heart attack, or your hearts will explode, or that you start talking about it, become like a discussion, that's all you'll talk about, then I would make it that you hear what I hear. And he said, Ya Rasulullah, what were their sins? He said, one was not particular from the drops of urine after urinating, was the splashes of urine or cleaning themselves. And the other one used to فَكَانَ يَأْكُلُ لُحُومَ النَّاسِ. The other one used to eat the flesh of the people, meaning backbite people. In other narrations mention, Bara bin Azaab radiallahu anhu narrated that a kafir, when he's placed in his grave, a beast comes with like eyes like copper, like a copper pot, and he's got a pillar with him or pole with him, umud min hadeeth. Then he hits him between his shoulder blades. He screams, no one hears it, that scream, except they curse that person, but no one hears it, everything hears it except for insan and jinn. In another narration, it's mentioned, Allah sets upon the kafir in the grave a beast that is blind and has a whip made out of iron. This come generally under the topic of a hammer or something, a striking implement, a pole, a hammer, sledgehammer, a whip made out of iron. And this kafir is hit until the day of judgment. No one hears him, and no one listens to him, his voice, so that they may have mercy upon him. The second type of punishment, we'll go through this over many weeks. We'll go through this. Actually, we'll stop, and then after Ramadan we'll resume this, inshallah. The next one is taslitul hayat wal aqarib, that the person has snakes or serpents and scorpions set upon him as a punishment. The punishment comes in the grave in the form of snakes, and so the first punishment is a hammer or sledgehammer. The second one is snakes or serpents and scorpions. It's mentioned that Abu Hurairah narrated that Rasulullah ﷺ said, do you know that in what regards this فَإِنَّ لَهُ مَعِيشًا ضَنْكَ, do you know in what context this verse came? Do you know in regards to what فِيمَا أُنزِلَ هَذِهِ الْآيَةِ? Do you know that what this verse, and Rasulullah ﷺ said the ayat, indeed that they will have a مَعِيشًا ضَنْكَ, very constrained, miserable existence or life. Do you know what ma'isha dank is, this restrained, constrained or miserable life? And he said, Allah and His Prophet, and the Sahaba radiallahu anhu said, Allah and His Messenger know best. He said, this is adab of the qabr, the adab of the kafir in his qabr. And I swear by the one in whose hand is my soul, that he'll have 99 serpents, tininan, and you know what these are? These are 99 snakes, and each one has 7 heads. Another narration mentioned there's nine heads, and they will sting him and bite him until he's resurrected. Allah save us. And another narration mentioned that for a kafir, for him will be set 99 serpents, similar sort of meaning in the hadith, until the day of judgment. And if one of these was to blow into the world, there will no greenery will grow on the surface of the world. If one of them, just one breath or one blow into this world, there will be no blade of grass or greenery will grow in this world. And Imam Ahmad Rahimahullah has also narrated this narration as well. And then it's mentioned another narration that this is about Ma'ish al-Dank, that what is it? Because here Ma'ish al-Kafir fi qabri, Ma'ish al-Dank is the life of the kafir in the grave, that the grave is squeezed upon him so much until the ribs of one side go into the other. And it is so severe, the punishment in the grave, he wished that he will go out of the grave to the fire of Jahannam. He doesn't know the fire of Jahannam is worse, but the punishment in the grave, he just wants it over. And it's also mentioned that Imam Ahmad has narrated that Rasulullah, Sayyidina Aisha radiallahu anha has narrated that Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam said that two snakes are sent on the kafirs. One from when he's in the grave, one is coming from the head and one is from the feet, and will sting him and go back and forth, keep stinging him, punishing him like that till the day of judgment. Another narration, Hassan Basri rahimahullah narrated, he was a tabi'i from the Khair al-Tabi'een, but he narrated that he heard from a Sahabi, didn't mention the Sahabi. And the chain of narration, Ibn Abi Dunya's narrated, says weak. He said, Nabi sallallahu alaihi wasallam said, meaning more or less, it's an attribute to Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam, that no one leave this world abusing one of them, meaning the people, the first of this ummah, Sahaba radiallahu anhu, except that there is a beast or animal or creature set upon them in the grave. They will sting them, their flesh, and they will feel the pain of its sting till Qiyamah. You know, those who abuse, people don't. I was reading something yesterday with the Awwal hadeeth ummah, you know, Sahaba radiallahu anhum. There's some people have a sickness in their brain, in their mind regarding them. Those people were chosen. They're very different to anybody else afterwards, and nobody afterwards will ever be like them. Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam vouched for them that they were selected to take everything from Rasulullah, to absorb everything from Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam. You know, then you see in the tabi'een there's a difference, there's a mark of difference between the tabi'een. Tabi'een will not be like Sahaba, let alone anybody else, although they're from the Khairul Qurun, the best of the centuries and generations of Islam. But you know, people Allah chose for Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam, you have to have something wrong with you. You know, someone from one firqa, one sect, you know, I was at a house and he started saying some things, and I said, listen, you people you abuse Ali, they almost worship Ali, you know, radiallahu anhu. I said, you are insulting Ali radiallahu anhu. And he goes, what? He goes, how can we insult Ali radiallahu anhu? I said, you call him a coward. And he said, we never said that. I said, you say Ali radiallahu anhu lived in the Khilafah, Abu Bakr radiallahu anhu, he was in his personal council, he was in Umar radiallahu anhu's council, Usman of the Khilafah. His profile, if you study Ali radiallahu anhu, his profile, he's a warrior, alim, outspoken, sha'ir, the type of personality he has, and you're saying he lied for 30 years, doesn't even match. This is something in your head, it's got nothing to do with Sahaba radiallahu anhu. This is something, a sickness that you inherited from whoever, but in Sahaba radiallahu anhu you don't see, this is not from him. Because how can he be, you call him a coward, he lied for 30 years. That's what you're accusing him of. And we don't accuse him of that because it's not true. But anyway, so people that will come afterwards and they will, Rasulullah has given very severe warnings for the people mistreat of a bad attitude to people that are maqbool with him. Allah is accepted and He's pleased with. So in the next narration, that these snakes that are set, their necks are like the necks of camel. Another narration mentioned, I'm just summarizing because they're very similar, the narration. And this snake that is set in the grave is the first punishment in the qabr. The last narration or the last punishment, and I'll finish off with this. It's related to either a dream or an incident that Rasulullah narrated. The hadith is narrated in Bukhari, that Samr ibn Jundub radiallahu anhu narration, Nabi sallallahu alaihi wasallam, one night two people came to me and took me by my hand, and they took me to akhrajani ila rad muqaddas, took me to the Holy Land. And then I saw a man that another one was, he take a hook, put it in his, so Imam Ibn Rajab is putting this from the types of Azaab Qabr, the raddu ra's al-mayyit bihajar, the crushing of the head with a rock, and the ripping of the mouth, the cheeks, as a punishment. So he said that a man was sitting and he's putting a hook through and then bringing it to the other side and pulling it out. As he goes to the other side to do it, then the other side heals, and he keeps on doing this over and over again. And I asked them what it is. They kept and said, keep going. Then we came to a man, he's sitting, a person, and he takes a rock and he crushes the head. The rock rolls away quite at a distance. The man goes to bring the rock. By the time he brings the rock, the head is healed back to what it was. Then he does the same thing over again and keeps on doing this. Then the next, they said, what is this? And he said, keep going. And he said, we came to like a tanur, we know what tanur is. It's like what do you call it? Oven. It's an oven, old oven, and there's fire in it, wood put in there and so forth, and the fire. He said that there were, the top part of it was narrow, and the bottom inside it, the belly of it, you could say, is wide, and there's a fire lit under it, and as the fire raises, there were people in it, men and women, they are up with the flames, they go up with the flames. And said, who's this? And said, keep going. And we went ahead and we came to a river. There's a man in it, and a river of blood, and there's a man drowning in it or swimming in it. And on the banks of the river, there's a man throwing stones, and kept on throwing the stones at his mouth, and keeps on doing this, and as a punishment for him. And said, what is this? And he said, so he said, explain to him what he said. As for the man whose cheeks were being ripped, this person used to speak lies, and these lies spread all over the horizons, tablu al-afaq, like reach all over the world. In that time, or in the past, I mean now this is more applicable, probably more literally messages being sent, around the world. And for yasna bidhalika, he'll be given this punishment till the day of judgment. As for the one, you saw that he was his head was being crushed, is a man that Allah taught his book, the Quran, and he used to sleep in the night and he didn't practice it in the day, and this will be the punishment till the day of judgment. As for the one you saw, the ones you saw in the tanur, the oven that were being burnt, these are the people who committed adultery, zina. And as for the one that you saw in the river, this was the consumer of riba, the one who consumed interest, usury or riba. So these are the specific details. Imam Ahmad, there's more, inshallah, we'll be reading. We need to know this knowledge, we need to know, else Rasulullah SAW has given us details, and to make us alert and aware. And what are the condition? What are the punishments? They're different forms of punishment for specific sins that were done in the world. So we read about general punishment, but even the way, what amal you do, that's what you face in the qabr in different points. If you do good, we read that, Quran, Salat, all these things will come. Those fundamentals of deen, Zakat, Hajj, the fundamentals, Salat, these are core things. Tilawat al-Quran, Dhikr al-Ramadan is before us. We should make a routine, like make a timetable that we can hopefully do the rest of the year. Like tahajjud, alright, I don't do regularly, but now we have a reason to wake up on suhoor. There's a reason to, we can use that. Something is there, there's an incentive. It's a ibadah actually, there's barakah for the person. It's actually blessing the suhoor itself. But we get 2 rakat, at least, it's pretty late, Fajr now. So get 2 rakat, tahajjud. We do more, inshallah, but maybe make a routine that we can do the rest of the year. It doesn't require, so make a routine for 30 days. Make sure I get certain things in every single day for 30 days, a juz of Quran, or half an hour, 1 hour Quran, whatever it is. Make a routine. You have to do like 12 hours, but do it that hopefully we can do it for the rest of the year. Make it a routine. Ramadan, no?
A habit.
Yeah, a habit. There's a riwayah, al-khayru 'ada وَالشَّرُّ لَجَاجَ. Khair is 'ada. Khair is an inculcated habit, and while shar, wickedness, evil, is lajaj, like inad, like it's a stubbornness of the nafs. That's all these. Like you have to change the stubbornness of the nafs. So shayateen is mentioned, otherwise chained up. There's many handicaps that are given to us in this thing. The whole community is also in the spirit of ibadah. Taraweeh is there, as in the masjid of sunnah, we're doing it together. Fasting is there. People generally are more generous. Rasulullah is the most generous in Ramadan. So sadaqah 4, 5. I'm not. You can do more. I'm just saying it. Where we are at, where I'm at, 4, 5, 6 things we put as a routine. It doesn't need like 10 hours and 12 hours of our time. But if you do more, the better. But at least certain basic things we're supposed to do anyway. Muslims supposed to read at least 1 juz every day anyway. This is something that's part of a Muslim's routine always. Do some dhikr in the morning, some dhikr in the evening, salawat on the Prophet ﷺ, tasbih, some astaghfar. These are things that rawat, some awrad, some adhkar. The books of hadith are full of so many hadith, du'as and so forth. So these are things that will help us in the qabr. And avoiding sins. One is fasting, and I mentioned Jummah as well. 1 Ramadan is enough to fix a whole life up. A person, as Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, لَعَلَّكُمْ تَتَّقُونَ. What is taqwa? The basic level of taqwa is to become a Muslim. And the ulama mentioned the second level of taqwa is that we avoid, that is, those things that are forbidden. All these things that I mentioned are forbidden. Riba, zina, all these sort of things, these are forbidden. So it's to avoid all the forbidden things and to do all those things that we ordered, fara'id and so forth, the things that are compulsory upon us, to fulfill our obligations in deen. And the last level of taqwa is that remove from our heart anyone and any goals and objective except for the rida of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. That's like the ultimate level of taqwa. That's the taqwa that is matloob, that is desired, something that we should strive for. But at least we should come into the second category, where we avoid all those things that are displeasing to Allah and do those things that are pleasing to Allah, inshallah. So, and these things are to be avoided. So this is a warning, right? You know, if you see online all these, this best self-help sort of advice is they don't mince the words. They tell you straight how it is, what the reality is. You know, they'll tell you you're a loser. They tell you that, you know, and we take it because, okay, this guy's a successful businessman. He's swearing at me. You know, he's swearing at me, but he's giving amazing advice that could help me to be a leader, to be a speaker, to be whatever it is, you know, whatever the. But we take it because he knows his field. Imam al-Anbiya knows dunya and he knows akhirah, and he's receiving wahi from Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. There's no better place. So these warnings that are given here is for our benefit and should push us, drive us forward to do more. Not it's too hard. No, there's no option. It's like a person fallen into a well. His job is only to get out of the well. There's no other, you know, why am I here? Why did I fall in here? This is irrelevant. Now your job is only one thing, is how to get out of the well. Now this could be our problem. Allah save us from these. We don't want these to be our problems. We don't want to be in this situation. So we have to avoid these things. There's no other way. We have to put these advice in front of us. Remember what our Prophet ﷺ told us and take it seriously and make our life. SubhanAllah, I mean, today someone came to me. It was a strange thing. He said, Allah gives tawfiq to pray. He said that he had a dream. His whole life turned 180 degrees. One dream. You know, I wish I had a dream like that. You know, you know, he was in tears, emotional. Allah give him istiqamah. He said, do ta'bir of the dream. I said, I don't do ta'bir of dreams. I gave my teacher's number. I said, you speak to him. He's very good at it. It's not my department. But I says, mashallah, some people maybe, I don't know, Allah makes a sabab means for them he said, I'm a different person. I woke up, he goes, I'm a different person. I said, all right, Allah accept, man. He goes, yeah. He goes, he came for a zakat workshop in Dandenong and PGCC, and he said he goes, I've got all my last 10 or 20 years statements, you know, bank statements, to sort out all the zakat. Must have been, people don't just do things like that, you know. So he said he's trying to make amends for his whole life. Hidayah is from Allah. Allah give us all hidayah. Subhanallah bihamdi, subhanakallah bihamdi, nashhadu an la ilaha illa anta, natubu ilayk. Subhana rabbika rabbil izzati amma yasifun, wa salamun ala al mursalin, walhamdulillahi rabbil alamin. Jazakumullahu khairan.